I think you came from Denver as Foye Oluokun joins us, kind enough to not only make some time for us. Round of applause, RJ. We didn't have the Bulls entrance for Foye this go round, but we have the round of applause. Do confirm you were in Denver, right? Oh, can you hear? Can you hear?
You want me to have this on?
No, you don't have to. You don't have to have it on. No, you're good.
Yeah, I was in Denver.
You were in Denver. Yeah. Okay. So first and foremost, welcome back to 1010XL World Headquarters live right now. Foye Oluokun, Jaguars linebacker, 1010XL college basketball analyst.
That's me.
confirm a couple things for me here, Foye. Mm-hmm. Yale, your alma mater, was in the NCAA tournament.
Yes, they were.
They played in the Denver regional.
I was there.
You are currently training in Denver?
Right.
What voodoo Ivy League magic did you pull off to get that exact regional?
That was clutch. Because I remember one time when I was in college, they made it. They made it the year before, but while I was in college, they made it, and they were they played all the way out there in Cali, so I couldn't make that game. So it's to see them actually live in the flesh back in the tournament. That was really cool. That's the first time I got to see that.
Which other teams were in Denver?
BYU, Wisconsin, Michigan, Texas A&M, San Diego, and some other teams.
So you really are the perfect person to help us break down some of the games tonight.
Yeah.
He's ready to go.
It's like, I'm not going to pat myself on the back. Okay, so let's start with the SEC. We know that it's the best conference in basketball. Certainly it was this entire season. But the team that you root for outside of Yale, Kentucky. Obviously, we have a massive game in SEC versus SEC with Kentucky, Tennessee. Let's start there. That game tomorrow night tips off at 7:39. I feel like Tennessee's going to be hard to take down, but you know Kentucky basketball well. What do you say?
No, your feelings are right. Tennessee's been playing well. Even the tournament so far, they've been shooting the ball well. I did go to the SEC tournament, so I got to see them all.
Did you see my alma mater beat Tennessee?
Florida? Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have. Yeah, I like Florida. Yeah, they're.
We'll get
a lot
to
of
them
good
in a
energy.
second.
You were also on boots on the ground there, too. So that's what I'm telling the people. Like, yes, you obviously play for the Jaguars, but you have the insight that we need, that people need as they make their picks for this
Tennessee
next 2
has a really good little fight on the little Rocky Top thing.
Yeah, it gets in your head. It's so annoying.
Yeah,
especially if it's a rival, though. You don't want to say
I mean, I would hate, if I was watching them trying to beat them, I would hate it, too. But we did not have to play them that tournament. So, yeah, I like how they get up for that Rocky Top song. Me and my friend kept singing along with them.
Lauren's not singing.
No. All right, so but Kentucky, to this point, how do you feel about them?
They played well this tournament. They've had a lot of injuries this year. Mm-hmm. They supposedly shoot the ball well. They shoot the ball a lot. If they shoot the ball well, they have a good chance. Both times they played Tennessee, they shot the ball well, and Tennessee did not. So if you want to bank on that for the third game in a row, it's going to be kind of tough because I think Chaz, he didn't shoot the ball well both games, or he was hesitant both games. They sag off of little guy Ziegler. Mm-hmm, that's how they make Ziegler beat him, really. So if he shoots the ball well, it'll be a harder night for it. But really, Tennessee isn't as deep as Florida. I think that's where they're big guy in the foul trouble in the tournament, and they kind of exposed them that way. That's how Florida just keeps throwing people at you, and they're all of them, they're really 9 deep. They play hard. They play well defensively. They're number one. Shoot out the gym.
Walter Clayton.
Oh, my God. I was like, what? So this guy is amazing.
And he's so calm.
He's already like that, and then he turns it up a notch sometimes, and you didn't even know there was another notch to go.
Yeah. I like the way Florida plays. But Tennessee, if they're hot and they stay out of foul trouble, I think they'll have a little run. I don't think they've ever made a Final Four.
Tennessee has not.
So let's keep it that way. Have Kentucky win.
I need them for my bracket for you.
I need Kentucky for my bracket. They win every year in my bracket.
Well, of course they do.
Yeah. I want to backtrack for a minute. It's done now, but I need to get your opinion on this because we've talked about it a few times this week. The Maryland-Colorado State buzzer beater. Was it a travel? Did Dairy Queen travel?
I mean, it's not a travel to the NBA.
But this is the NBA.
It's not a travel.
That's everyone's answer.
Last play of the game is not a travel.
Okay.
Maybe
the time if it was earlier.
Early in the second quarter.
So that means it's a travel.
Maybe. I'm kind of the gather stuff. It looked fluid to me, so I'm not calling that.
So it's fluid. That you agreed with Gene Sarator. It was a fluid motion.
It was fluid.
But they also said he bobbled it initially, and so that's why it wasn't one extra step.
He was like, as long as they're bobbling it, it's not a travel. And I'm like, so just bobble for 12 steps and you're good.
Technically.
Well, and we talked about Clifford for Colorado State. He's going to be a lottery pick in the NBA, and he and his team obviously almost beat Maryland. So that game was really fascinating. All right, let's get to, since we talked a little bit about Florida, Maryland. On the Maryland side, you know that they're not nearly as deep as Florida, like you were saying how deep Florida is. What though makes them special?
I like how hard they play. And I didn't watch Maryland much this year, but just watching that game, they play hard. That their guard, he can really get going, I heard. So I just heard that they're not very deep. So if they're hot, I feel like last game would have been the game to beat Florida. I don't think Florida's going to put two beatable
kind of clunky games
in a row. UConn had their chance there, and really I thought they might pull it off, but then Florida put
me too.
put it together there at the end.
But you've seen Florida in person, and you've seen multiple other teams.
I also saw Kentucky beat Florida.
Yeah, that is
So
also
that's a problem.
That was the first loss of the season.
That's a problem. So
Yeah.
they're beatable to me.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Foye. So you were at the SEC tournament. You saw Florida play 3 games. You saw all 3 of them. So here's my question for you. Is there another team with the depth that if they get into foul trouble that they can compete with the Gators? Duke.
Yeah.
That's it. Because that's what
fine.
I believe. I believe Duke is the only other team that can keep bringing guys in the front court if the big guys get into foul trouble that can compete with Florida. And that's even if Florida has an off shooting night like they did against UConn.
Right.
Which is, does that mean you're picking Florida?
I'm picking Kentucky.
It's like I already said this.
Well, so speaking of Kentucky, if you're just joining us, Jaguars linebacker, 1010XL college basketball analyst, Foye Oluokun joining us live in studio. Foye, I am fascinated because we were going back and forth about this over the weekend. You are a diehard Kentucky fan since you were a kid.
Yeah.
But the first thing you said to me was, "I'm proud of Cal, though. I'm happy for Arkansas."
I'm happy.
How can you have both? How can Kentucky fans have both appreciation for Cal?
I'm not a Kentucky fan from Kentucky. Like
Okay,
they
so
die a
that's
little
different
harder.
there. Yeah.
They got hate in their heart. You know what I'm saying? And that's cool. Like I love the appreciation for that program of basketball. Like they have so much pride for their program. Anytime somebody does a little bit better, like get them out of here. Which is hard to coach for, which is hard to play for. So, being an athlete myself, like I could just imagine being under that pressure all the time. So it's like, Cal has a job. Cal's a person too. So I want success for him, just not more success than Kentucky. Because what he does is help kids get to the league and get their money and stuff. So, and he's still recruiting freshmen, which not a lot of coaches are doing. They're doing this transfer portal stuff. So to get a top-notch freshman and whatever, get him NBA, because you can't deny all his little guards are doing well in the NBA. So whatever he's teaching them or whatever system he's putting them in, it translates well to the NBA. Now, it might not be the best for college, but for the NBA, like, it's good. Now, he just cared more about that than winning games at some point, and that's why we had to get him up out of there. But, him making this run again, like, I feel like it's renewed his joy of coaching. Like, if he would have, I thought they were going to miss the tournament. I'm like, he got to retire soon, because that's just not, Cal got to be top notch. You know what I'm saying? So just to have him have more success, like he'll stick to his little ways of doing stuff. He did say he'll hit I don't think he does well recruiting transfers though, but he said he's going to hit the transfer portal a little bit harder while still recruiting freshmen. But I'm happy for him. I just don't want him to do better than Kentucky.
Right, and that was, I think, what everyone was worried about. They're like, oh my God, what happens if Cal gets to the Sweet 16 and Kentucky doesn't?
Well, we did, so we're good.
Right, so everybody, but what happens if they get to the Elite Eight?
No, I think they're going to beat who they got
Texas
next?
Tech.
Yeah,
Texas
I think they're going to
Tech,
beat them.
You do.
If they play, they're playing good basketball all of a sudden. Before they were kind of just chucking it at the rim and hoping it goes in. Now they're playing methodical, good basketball. So obviously it goes how their guards go.
Right.
And I think Thiero is
Thiero is going to
he's
play.
coming back.
Yeah.
So
And he's arguably their best player, and you couple that with more depth in the front court because more guys have gotten healthy.
yeah, Big Z's playing well now.
Big
He looks like
Z.
a pro now.
Even though he still fouls out every game.
Yeah,
but that's
not
all right.
defensively, but he's a good offensive force.
I don't mind when players foul out, like as long as it wasn't ticky-tack stuff like that. If they're playing that hard and they get to that point in the game, like it doesn't bother me.
Well, it's nice for Florida when you have guys to keep
Exactly.
going.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes you need
Yes,
that kind of
that
force.
is helpful. But as long as it's not ticky tack fouls and they're not smart, or if they're smart with it, then it doesn't bother me if it's effort fouls. In other words,
Yeah,
I
that's
feel
valid.
like that would be honestly quite the path when you go and you beat Kansas, then Rick Pitino's St. John's, then Texas Tech. That would be quite the path to get there too.
As a 10 seed, and I
Yeah.
know it's John Cinderella
Yeah.
because, you don't look at Calipari and you say, oh, that's a double digit to the Elite Eight. But so here's the other part of our conversation that I want to take our listeners through that I'm curious your perspective on this, Foye, not just from the 3 teams I'm about to say in college basketball, but sports at large. So Calipari leaves Kentucky. Part ways, goes to Arkansas. That is only after Eric Musselman leaves to go to USC. BYU, Mark Pope leaves there. He comes to Kentucky.
Right.
Obviously, they have found success going to the NBA ranks and hiring Kevin Young. The fact that in this weird sliding glass doors moment, all three programs are better off now, you can make the argument, than they were before. Is there something, too, especially with the Cal situation, that it just ran its course? That sometimes, like, something was good at one juncture, but then it takes maybe, 5-6 years, whether it's stale or whether it's...
It takes booster money. That's all it is.
That's what you think
that's all it is. Kentucky didn't like Cal no more. They weren't giving him enough money to get... Because Cal was getting recruits. I don't think he was getting the top recruits that he wanted, like he needed, if that makes sense. He wasn't getting the John Walls, the Marcus, because he was getting 5-star, but he wasn't getting his... the guys were going other places. So he goes to Arkansas. He gets money, NIL money. Pope comes. Everybody loves Pope at Kentucky. We get NIL money to get all these no-name transfers that apparently we needed. Pass the ball and shoot the ball well. And then, my big thing is, like, I knew he could coach because BYU made the tournament. As long as he could recruit a little bit, I think he was going to be good. So just the fact that we were able to get to the Sweet 16 this year, and then we have good recruits coming, and then you're going to hit the transfer portal again, I think that's going to be good for Kentucky. Then BYU, I was at the BYU game. All the fans were like, oh, we didn't like Pope. Like, our fans didn't like, our boosters didn't like Pope. But we got this NBA guy. And guess we gave all that money to AJ coming in next year. So
number one recruit in the country is going to BYU.
A good coach. But then I don't know, I call them boosters. What do they call them now?
The collective.
Yeah, as long as they get along with him or willing to give money to the coach to do what he needs to do, then you can really pull off good teams. So, I mean, you can't deny that they're good coaches and they're right, but you got to have the backing of the guys to help you go get the players that you need.
I want to ask you about Dan Hurley on the other side. Can we keep you for another segment, Faye?
Man, yeah, go ahead.
But he does have a flight to catch. Come on now.
Well,
it's all good. Are you cool with staying?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. We'll return with Foye, talk a little bit more basketball on the other side. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on 10 to Nix on 92.5 FM. Mia O'Brien, Taylor Dahl, RJ Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you. Jaguars middle linebacker Foye Oluokun in studio with us. I say middle linebacker. You can play whatever position on the field you want to play, Foye, because you always lead this team in tackles. So you pick your spot, and we'll roll with that. All right, so a basketball question. I read this sentence, and I want to see if you agree. BYU has a ton of similarities with Kentucky, who Alabama handled 3 times this year. I'm asking, obviously, the first game tonight, BYU, Alabama. Who you got?
I have Alabama in my bracket.
Okay.
After seeing BYU, I'd say they're similar, but they do some things better in turn. Yeah, they play a little faster than us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Kentucky can get stagnant in their offense, and BYU seems to have things rolling and clicking right now. So, I think it's going to be a dangerous game for Alabama. Okay.
We spent a ton of time talking about Dan Hurley this week, the UConn men's basketball coach. You've watched him win 2 national championships, right? You've watched him on the sidelines. He's a fiery guy. Would you want to play for a coach like that?
I'm sure if I was in the building, I would like him. Okay. I don't like him, though.
I feel like we were talking about that earlier in the week. I was like, I feel like he's one of the guys where if he's your guy, you like it. If he's not your guy, then you hate it. I feel like there's not really an in-between.
Whining and complaining. I mean, it's like if you want to, you got to expect everybody's best shot. And he does a lot of, like, after every call, he's whining and complaining about something. Like, and he's I think he thinks he's the biggest thing in the game. And I think the game is always about the players. I don't really care about Dan Hurley himself as a spectator. So when he's talking about, like, oh, don't you know who I am? Don't big time. Like, bro, who are you? To be honest with you, it's like, yeah, you kind of had a little run, but it's gonna be hard to keep repeating that because other schools probably are more attractive than Connecticut. No offense, but he did a good job for those. He obviously won 2 in a row, and that's a crazy feat. So. Congrats to him, but I just think sometimes he's going about his success the wrong way.
There's a better school in Connecticut, and what's the
name? We beat
him
now. Yeah. I feel like the last time we played, we beat him.
Nice.
If you go back in the history, I gotta look that one up. I like that. Go ahead,
remember.
Taylor.
No, I was about to say because we were talking about the comments he made after the Florida game when he was complaining to fans about the calls and how good luck against Baylor because you're gonna get pretty much called fouls on you that aren't them. And we were like, Lauren was like, what? I feel like, honestly, they kind of got some of the calls. But it is interesting because he's that type of guy where he is that complainer and he'll make it known. And I think if you're on the team, you probably appreciate that he is fiery and sticks up for your boys. But if not, it's annoying.
Yep.
Bring them up, by the way. Yale 45, UConn 44, December 5th, 2014, the last time.
That is a low-scoring basketball.
Yeah, I think that was Ollie. Kevin Ollie was still there.
Yeah, which we had the stat earlier in the week that Kevin Ollie is the only head coach to win a national title since, I believe, 2002 in the last 30 some odd years or something like that. That's not 30 years, but either way, he's the last head coach who had not previously made a Sweet 16 to win the national title.
Wow.
Which is a wild stat, which brings me to Michigan State will play in their Sweet 16 game on Friday. To the Dan Hurley point, though, and I'm curious your take. Again, big picture question here. Dan Hurley's a yeller. Tom Izzo has said he feels like he's actually gone back to his old ways.
Good.
You like
I was
that?
a big Izzo fan,
Yeah. So you like the idea of a coach saying, I'm going to coach you hard. I may be loud and boisterous, but it's in your best interest.
Yeah, you coach the players though. You don't have to the meet. Like it's not for the cameras. That's who Tom Izzo is. I feel like Dan always knows the camera's on him, so he's making these crazy faces and doing too much for the camera. Izzo just been like that, and he's had a lot of success. I think he does well with. I don't think he has a lot of talent coming his way, and he gets those guys that stay for 3-4 years sometimes. And I can't bet against Izzo in a tournament. I used to try to. Like Michigan State's looked awful all year, and then he just starts putting it together, which is crazy because that's what Cal got ran out for. But Izzo is consistently always like doing more with
Peaking at the right time.
less. Yeah.
And
I wanna say they
strength in numbers is their
Right.
motto this year, which I once upon a time, and by once upon a time I mean in October or November, said that to you about Kentucky, that the sum of the parts would be better than the parts of
Yes.
the sum.
Yeah.
And I think that's being proven true between Michigan State, Kentucky, and even Purdue to an extent as well without Zach Edey this
Right.
year.
Yeah, there are a few teams that don't have a ton of transfers. And so, yeah, Purdue certainly being one of those, Michigan State, another one of those. I'm curious in the NFL locker room, you've got the guys who the transfer portal and NIL have been around for them when they were in school. They got paid, right? They transferred to different schools. And then you've got everybody else in the locker room who that was not the case in college athletics. For instance, for you, like, right? All the guys that are like year 3 and beyond, they didn't have that. Do you have interesting conversations about how all that works?
I just think like some of the older guys just are so fascinated by the fact that they were getting paid X amount in college. It's like, wow, that's crazy. And it's just like the kind of the leverage they had over their coaches. So the whole dynamic of college, like coaching and player to coach relationship kind of changes. And it's just kind of crazy to see their stories. But like, for younger kids, I think there's more of a learning curve in the NFL now, just to like, everybody's getting paid now. It's like, if you don't do the right thing, like you can't really complain anymore. Or,
You can't just change
hide
teams.
behind. Yeah. So it's like, if you're not doing the right thing, like you're going to be out of there. And, so I feel like now they got to understand, like, they don't run the show no more. So that's kind of where it always stems from. It's like, like some older guy kind of finding a way to ask, like, why aren't you like listening to coaching? Like, how was it for you in college? However nice way we got to bring it up. And then they'll start telling their stories like, wow, that was crazy. But now we're like picking up like, okay, this is why you're like that. That's kind of how it starts.
We played a clip from Kirby Smart earlier this week, and he said, first of all, his freshmen are tired.
Yeah.
They can't really practice.
said they don't
because
wanna
they're
practice
tired.
'cause
And
they're
then
tired.
And then he also said that they don't want to be coached anymore. And so I do think it's interesting when we talk about the divide between the guys who it was like you.
And it is that split right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's changing.
Soon it's going to be, it'll
Exactly.
gradually start getting more. When we're talking about the NCAA portal, how do you feel about that opening right in the middle of the tournament, like from a player's perspective? Because we're seeing even a Michigan guy enter the portal while he's still in the tournament.
Who entered the portal?
What was his name? The Michigan kid who entered.
I think they have three.
There's
but none
3 of them, but
play.
they're all backups.
Oh. It's funny. That's funny. I mean, season's technically over. This is the postseason. So for most schools, it is over. And if some kids can get recruited and commit, you got to have everybody able to commit no matter, you don't want to lose your spot because you're still playing. And let's say the Michigan guys aren't playing. Now they're behind the 8 ball. They got to come back to Michigan and be on the bench again. So I think the portal is so interesting because I agree with being able to change just like coaches change and stuff. So it's protecting the player, but I still think that there has to be like rules on it you can only leave if your coach leaves like and play the next year. So that's like, obviously there's a committee for everything. So put your case into the committee, have them approve it, move, play the next year. Now, if you want to leave, you can leave and go to another school. But I feel like you have to sit out a year or something like that.
That's what we had to do back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, in high school, I don't know what it was in St. Louis, but like that's what it was. If you transferred high schools, you had to sit out 60 days, and they don't even have to do that anymore. And so then, like, why? If you don't have to do it at the high school level, why should we expect that they'd be okay with doing it at the collegiate? Isn't that insane? Like, it's the world we live in.
Yeah.
With one NBA college basketball question for you. You have long said, Foye, that when your playing days are over, you may be interested in a career in the NBA.
Yeah.
This idea of Kevin Young going from a longtime NBA career to college, we've also seen college football coaches go to the NFL to get away from college. What do you make of these college programs that are recruiting pro coaches, pro GMs, and then on the flip side of that, guys who want to get away from it? What does that do for you as someone who's always viewed the NBA as perhaps where you ultimately would want to go in terms of professional behind the scenes?
Yeah, I think I would rather stay in professional sports, whether it's NBA, NFL. Obviously, I can't really do much NFL right now, conflict of interest. But let's say on the basketball side, I think you're trying to hire NBA coaches because that's all you can sell to the kids right now. It's like, come play for this guy who knows how the league works. Come play for this guy who knows what talents you need to get to the NBA. And then at the same time, he's going to treat you because, it's all contractual now, just like the NBA. So he's going to understand, how to handle players that are getting paid and stuff like that. So if college coaches, the older ones, like who just left this year, the Miami coach or whatever, he had 2 good years before.
Larinaga.
Yeah, and he just didn't know how to handle, the new college kids anymore. So same thing I feel like with I'm blanking.
Tony Bennett.
No.
Virginia?
Bill Belichick going UNC.
Right.
So it's like you have to be able to kind of have this pre-NFL or pre-professional sports mindset for these kids that are coming in basically as professional athletes now. They're amateurs, but they're getting paid like professionals. So being able to sell that recruiting-wise is cool. But I think a lot of people leave college because they're still kids, and you got to take care of them. You got to coddle them too much. You got to babysit, and then you got to babysit them while they're there so they don't leave again. Even though they're like 1-year contracts where they have the leverage instead of me, it's like they can go anywhere. So I wouldn't want to do that. That sounds awful.
Do you have any bets with any of your teammates when it comes to basketball?
I don't bet on sports.
Okay, very smart.
No, but I'll.
But you do have a final. You do have a final
money.
four. You have a final four.
Every time Yale makes it, my bracket's done. So I already have Kentucky going.
You had Yale in the final four.
Kentucky Yale final.
And who are the other 2 teams you had?
I have Maryland beating Florida.
Okay.
Just because I thought Florida was going to play their bad game against Maryland, not UConn. Who I had down there or up there?
I'll pull up the bracket for you. It's in the non-Yale side. So we got Yale, Kentucky, Maryland, and then this would
At
be
the top is
this
Duke,
would be
Bama.
from the East region. So Duke, Arizona, BYU, or Alabama.
Duke.
Yeah, and you think they're going to win the whole thing?
Kentucky.
How do you feel?
I mean, Kentucky beat Duke.
How do you feel about?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
His logic is there. How do you feel about Cooper Flagg at the next level? I'm hearing both. I know.
I think he's going to be a great player. Is he going to be like what was that, superstar? He's going to be a really good, solid player.
Yeah.
I think maybe he'll grow a little bit taller, but athletically, he's pretty athletic, but he's not. If you want to draft him, you know the player you're getting already, and he's really good. I think if you want to draft like the next biggest player potential-wise, you go Ace Bailey.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, just 'cause he's a lot of untapped potential.
Yeah.
And you can teach him. He's moldable, I feel like. But I think Cooper is just like so good already, so technically sound.
Yeah.
Like
There's not any questions there.
no question.
least,
I mean,
yeah.
what can he get better at? Shooting, maybe.
Yeah.
He's already a facilitator. Like he plays the game the right way. I think I think he's a great second guy. I don't think he's somebody that you give the ball to the whole game and you go out and win.
All right,
NBA.
Foye, I know you have a flight to catch.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Hope you've had a great off season, and we look forward to seeing you when OTAs begin soon.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys having me on here.
Of course. Talking all things basketball. We'll be back on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Hey, Mia here, and thanks so much for watching 1010XL Jaguars. For even more coverage of the Big Cats, be sure to subscribe to 1010XL Jaguars.